foundation of courtesy. Imagine a man and a woman walking together, enjoying an evening stroll. He looks lovingly into her eyes. He stares to the side, impressively noticing the flowers, the trees, and the birds. He talks of his awards he's won, and the many hours of humanitarian service accomplished. The unforgettable summer he spent in third world countries. Except he doesn't notice her. She, on the other hand, struggles with his long giraffe-like legs, put her sorry stuff to shame. She tirelessly trails behind him. He was just too busy to notice. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a reoccurring problem in our society. Of offense, this cruel casualty, we must stand side by side in our danger. It is too much for us to ask to walk one step. Excuse me. It is too much for us to walk one step ahead. Let us unite and become one. As we journey to a higher plane of walking courtesy, let us begin. Number one, evaluate. Those first few steps are critical in our heel-to-toe speed evaluation. It is within these moments our world will begin to expand as we recognize who it is we're walking with. Just how quickly are the neighboring little piggies going to the market? Number two, adjust. Now is that crucial time to adjust our strategy. These unselfish thoughts will lead to reality. It will take some time to adjust your walking patterns, but this will be a pleasurable walking experience. As we sacrifice our desires, wants, and passions for the greater good, it's as if we say to those with whom we walk, man, I can. And finally, yay. You've done it. With these unforgiving habits behind you, life will begin to have a new view. The flowers will smell sweeter. The sun will shine brighter. And you will look forward to happier days. Let's go see the next one. Number one, as we show kindness and concern for our slow-paced patrons, they will appreciate us to watch out for them. This gratitude will sink deep into their hearts and lead to a happier life. Number two, happier friendships. Our friends will want to walk with us more because we took time for them. Just slow down. Number three, the gentleman always gets the girl. Trust me, it's worth the wait. Let's review now that we are one step closer to our walking satisfaction. Number one, evaluate. Recognize the pace of your fellow pedestrian. Number two, adjust. If need be, every day you will feel a sense of accomplishment as you find that delicate balance in your stride. Others will appreciate your careful consideration, and friendships will grow. I know as we follow these steps, we will enjoy a more pleasurable walking experience. Thank you for your time today.
Say your name before you start.
Alyssa Blunk. Okay, class, I want to talk to you today. Oh, sorry, my name is Marla Marks. I grew up deaf since the age of 2. My family was all hearing, and I was the only deaf one who signed, so I had to learn sign language by myself. I also had classes with deaf friends and a speech therapy class that helped me to learn sign language. During my high school years, I was in a public school, and I felt very comfortable that I could switch back and forth from the hearing to the deaf. I felt comfortable interacting with both. Today, I'd really like to talk to you about the fashion industry. There's many different reasons why people dress the way they do. It may tend to be because of their personal preference or their lifestyles, or maybe it's connected to how expensive the clothes is, or there's many different reasons for fashion. The fashion world started a long time ago, probably really around the 1700s. In the Greece era, it started because there were many plays, and they had makeup and different costumes that influenced the people in that time period. It was related with Shakespeare and all the different people in that time period. The people that time period took ideas from many of the actors and the costumes. Also, Queen Elizabeth, in her era, she had many different clothes that she bought, and many people created different things for her that influenced the people, that they looked up to her and they wanted to emulate her. And all the people in her kingdom wanted to follow her example, that era of clothing. As the years went by, fashion started to change, and as America was settled, the fashion started to change as it spread over the country and changed from England to America. Many people here in America couldn't afford the fancy clothes that were in England. Many people who could afford the clothes tended to import those clothes from England here and sell the clothes here to people who could afford them. But people who could not afford those kind of clothing decided to set up different shops where they sewed their own clothing. And that influenced many other people too, as they set up these sewing shops. As years passed, and now today, clothes that are popular, we follow Paris. Paris has different kinds of fashion shows and catwalks and designers from Italy and Paris that people here buy their clothes from there. Fashion designers started creating making different plans of what they thought in the future would become popular here in America. It's a lot of work to design and decide what will be popular in the future. In Paris and Italy, they start really early. They plan, they design, discuss the different things that they want to have in their fashion shows. And they look at what will put those things in the shows that they hope will be popular and influence people here in America. People from here in America, called buyers, travel to the fashion shows to buy what they think will be popular here in America. Most of these buyers bring the clothes to big cities such as New York or LA, Los Angeles, Florida. These buyers buy what they think will be linked to their states, in the East or the West. It's important to buy the appropriate clothing. Also, many people like to look up to movie stars, and they look and see, wow, what they're wearing and their kind of styles, and tend to follow different things like MTV or magazines, fashion magazine. Many different things influence how people what they want to wear in their fashion. A lot of young people like to look up to the movie stars, and it influences what they wear. The media really influences people's style. It's all around us. Depends. Fashion has many things it influences, like where we live, or where we're from, the region that we're from. Fashion is not slow. It is a process. It follows things like trends. Trends come from people that we look up to, that influence us, that we would like to be like. Do you have any questions for me? That's a good question. For our project today, for your homework, I would like you to research a designer, a fashion designer. I want you to think about why that fashion designer chose the kind of fashion, the reason why they designed the fashion that they chose. I want you to research that and then bring it to class about that fashion designer and the reason why they designed that kind of fashion, and then we'll discuss and have a presentation in class. Yes, definitely. Trends can happen from a long time ago, yes. Many people look to the past to get ideas for now. The 60s are set, they look at the 60s or 70s from before and look at the different ideas and try to take different ideas to create different styles of clothing and integrate them in today. They're not exactly the same as in history. With the technology today and the sewing and the skills, they're able to create more ideas and involve them with the trends of the past and incorporate them to the new trends today. What do I predict for the trends for the future? Well, I think right now a lot of people are wearing casual clothes. So really any formal clothes like big fancy dresses, I don't think will be really popular today because people can't afford them. They may look up to people who wear those kind of clothes and like it, but they can't afford it. So different people take ideas from those kind of clothes and build knockoffs that are cheaper so people can afford them. I think in the future it will stay casual. Really what's popular today, many people wear flip-flops. It really depends on the area. In America there's many different places. California is warm, the South is warm, the East is cold. It's just different in all the different areas. I don't think there's really a difference between hearing and deaf people's fashion. I think it just depends on what they prefer. What that kind of store will sell or what they fill. I really think both groups tend to have the same kind of fashion. Well, business clothing, every day, most businesses, most jobs tend to have Fridays that they have a casual Friday. So if Fridays you can, wash your clothes. Monday through Thursday you can wear slacks and a tie. It really depends on if it's a formal job or a casual job, on what would match on what you should wear. what your boss might prefer, or follow the time that it's appropriate for what kind of job you have. Really depends on what's appropriate. Well, yeah, health problems can be related with fashion. For example, people who have back problems, and if they wear high heel shoes or platform shoes, it's popular for young people to wear those kind of shoes, and then they have injuries later on in life in their back. It really depends on the individual's preference themselves. Health problems do influence fashion. Yes, they do. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you so much for paying attention, and I hope you learned something about the fashion world. Don't forget your homework.
Amy Hall. Hello, class. Today I'm going to be your teacher. Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Marla Marks. I grew up deaf. I've been deaf since I was 2 years old. My family is hearing, and so I'm the only one that's deaf in my family. I've just learned myself. There were some deaf in my class, and they would sign too. I also went to speech therapy classes and sign classes as well. When I was in high school, I socialized with the deaf world, so I really feel comfortable in both worlds. Today I'm going to teach you about fashion and the fashion industry. The way people have a reason for the way they dress, and there are various reasons. Maybe it's their personality, or they like those kind of clothes, or it just fits their lifestyle. Maybe it's just the clothes they can afford. Maybe they can afford really expensive clothes. There's many different reasons why people dress the way they do. The fashion world began a long time ago, probably in the 1700s. Greece was the center of the fashion world at that time. And the reason was because of the dramas and the plays that would go on, with all the different costumes and everything. There's a lot of influence from that, Shakespeare and different eras like that, different histories, different times in history. And what people were wearing in the plays would relate to the fashion. People would kind of steal the ideas from that. Also, there was a time where people would get their trends from Queen Elizabeth. She was a really wealthy woman, and she would want a lot of different clothes, and they were all very creative and nice, and so that would really influence people. They would look up to her. She was the queen of the kingdom, and people really wanted to follow her. They looked up to her in that era. Now, the times have changed over the years. The British came to America, and they started to change. Lifestyles were different, though, in America than they were in England. So everything was a little bit different. People in England, I really don't know what they can afford, if they were really more fancy clothes and really expensive or whatever, but the people would bring clothes from Europe on a ship, and they would arrive here, and then they would sell them. The people who couldn't afford to buy those clothes would, tend to sew their own. And they would set up little shops, businesses, and they would sew clothes for other people. As the years have gone on, our clothes style tends to come from Paris. And the reason for that is they have, the runway shows. They have designers, Italian designers or from wherever they are, and our our buyers will go and buy clothes from them. So the designers get very creative with their patterns and with what they want and what they think will be popular in the future. And then they would make these different clothes, and it's really a lot of work. Paris and Italy and in that area, their fashion begins very early. They plan and figure out what specific things they want for their fashion shows. From their experience, they pick what they believe will be most popular and hope that it will influence our style here in America. We have what's called buyers, and they go to other countries and go to the fashion shows, buy the clothes, and they come back and distribute them here in America. Most of them begin to sell in New York and LA, big cities, like in big cities like that, in various places around the country. They buy clothes that will match their state, whether it's in the east or the west or the south, with the different climates. So it really depends on that too. Depends on the fashion shops. And, they need to buy clothes that are appropriate for that. People also tend to look up to movie stars to see what they're wearing. Most of you, high school age, you tend to get your style from TV or magazines or, different things in the media. You look up to people and think, oh, I really want to be like them. And so they influence you quite a bit. The media has a huge influence with their pictures that they have. Wow. The influence of clothes can come from anywhere, depending on where you live, who your idol is. You really want to match them. You'll get it from that as well. Fashion doesn't stay the same for a long time. It keeps progressing, keeps changing. That's what we call trends. Trendsetters are people that we look up to and want to relate and be like them. So, do you guys have any questions? Yes, that's a good question. The project that we're going to be doing today, that you'll do after you get home, is you're going to research a designer. You're going to find a fashion designer and, find what you like about them, what you find is interesting. The reason why you dress the reason that they influence the way that you dress. So find a designer and then bring that to class, and I'm going to have you give a speech on that, about the reasons why you have your particular sense of fashion. Oh yes, definitely. Trends, we get those from a long time ago. People will tend to follow those. Many people look at ideas and think, man, I'm all out of ideas. And so what they do is they will look to the past with the 70s, 80s, 90s. They'll look back at trends that we've had before, and they will try to pull ideas from that. Like bell bottoms or flare legs, different styles of clothes. We tend to steal those ideas from long ago and, combine those with our ideas from today. We have so much technology now with sewing and everything. It's very skilled. We can be a lot more creative with the trends that we had from a long time ago. We can really expand on those. What do I see as the next trend? Well, so far I see a lot of casual clothes. Really, I don't see formal clothes, big dresses, big hats and hair and things. We don't really use those anymore. People can't really afford them. we look at that and think, oh man, that's really cool, I'd really like that, but we can't afford it. So what we do is it's what we call a knockoff. It's a copy, but doesn't cost as much. So what do I see? Well, I think that's what it's going to be for a while, is casual. That process seems to be pretty popular right now. Flip-flops are really popular, but that also depends on the area. Here in America, in different places, different weather, climates, whether it's in the warm of the south, that would be a great place, but in the east it's very cold, so it just depends on the style. Do I think that the deaf and the hearing dress the same? Well, yeah, I do. I mean, it depends on what they prefer. If they prefer one specific type of store, then they'll tend to shop there. But I feel that they're the same. Business clothing, it does tend to be more casual. It also depends on your job. Usually Fridays are more of a casual day, because it's the weekend, and people usually Monday through Thursday, they will wear pants and nice clothes that are really related to their job, more formal dress. But on Friday, you really don't need to be as casual. Usually, it just depends on what the boss wants. You have to kind of follow what they do, what they wear. Yeah, it's hard to decide what's appropriate. Do health problems influence clothing? Well, yeah. Sometimes people will have a bad back, and they can't wear really high heels or thick shoes. It's really popular with young people. But then later they realize that was a big mistake, because they have such bad back problems. And so that it can cause some pain later on, and health problems. Yeah, fashion can influence health problems, or can cause health problems. Well, I guess that's it for today. Thank you for your attention, and don't forget your homework assignment.
Laura Eastley. Hello class, I'm going to be your teacher today. My name is Marla Marks. I have been deaf since the age of 2, and my family is all hearing, and I had to learn how to sign myself. And I also learned how to sign with other people, but I also took oral classes. I entered the deaf world about high school, and I feel pretty confident with both worlds, both the hearing and deaf world. I want to teach you guys about fashion industry. People have reasons behind why they dress a certain way. Maybe because of their personal preference, or maybe because they can afford expensive clothing. There are different reasons for fashion. Fashion world started way back in the 1700s. It started really in Greece, from the drama and theater, such as Shakespearean plays and that time period. But fashion had a lot to do with actors, and so people would copy from theater. Queen Elizabeth is also a prominent person who started fashion. she required a lot of, she wanted to buy a lot of unique and creative clothing, and people looked up to her, of course, and because she's the queen, and they wanted to follow her fashion statement. And since then, as time has progressed, when the English arrived in America, fashion started to change and influence differently. Here in America, people had a lot of things going on. England could afford a lot of expensive clothing. They would order clothes from Europe, and it would arrive, and then they would sell it to people who could afford it in America. But people who couldn't afford it decided to have their own designs, and they would sell their own clothing or set up stores and such, and that influenced people as well. And now what is popular in our time period, Paris is the epitome of fashion because of catwalks. They have a lot of different fashion shows, and they have a lot of different designers, and people everywhere else will buy clothes from Paris, from the designers' first ideas. And they organize things of how they want and what people will most likely buy. It's a lot of work to design clothes, and Paris started early on in the fashion industry. And fashion shows show what is popular, and they hope that it will influence people everywhere else. People in America, buyers, will buy clothes from what they think will influence people the most. Big cities like New York or Florida, Las Vegas, etc., they will buy what they think their state would most likely like. Depending on where you are in the country, north, south, east, or west, will influence the clothing type as well. But a lot of youth look up to movie stars, and most high school people, which you most are, will look at the media and magazines and TV and look up to movie stars and want to match what they're wearing. And so that's where a lot of fashion influence comes from as well. And the media has a lot of information, it has a lot of pictures and such. Fashion has a lot of factors to it, like where you live and such. Fashion is not a slow progressing thing. It goes fast and influences a lot of people, and people want to match what their influences, like media. And does anyone have any questions for me? Yes, that's a good question. What we do today, we have to research each designer and find outfits that we think the designer likes or would be interested, or why, and then we have to back up our reasons behind it, the reason why they would be interested in it. And then we bring it to class, and then we have to present it. Yes, definitely. Trends happen from a long time ago. Will come back again. Yeah, it happens. People look back and they're like, "Oh, that was awesome. Why don't we?" And I start having ideas about clothing fashion statements from the 70s or 80s, and I try to take from that. And then incorporate it into what's popular today. There are a lot of creative and talented people who can look back and find what was trendy in the 70s and 80s and sew designs for what would be trendy for today. There's a lot of everyday casual clothing that is being worn today. A lot of formal prom dresses and such isn't really going to happen. People can't really afford that kind of fashion. We look at that kind of fashion and we think it's neat, but it's not very affordable. And so people will tend to copy some of the ideas from it, but not make it as fashionable or formal. And so I think it will continue to be casual. And casual and popular, like flip-flops. And in America, weather changes. In the south, in California, it's warm. In the east, it's cold. And that will change the lifestyle as well. Really, I think it's the same. It kind of depends. Your preference, what types you prefer. But I feel it's pretty much the same. I think business clothing for jobs will stay pretty everyday as well, because most companies have jeans. They wear jeans on Friday because it's near the weekend, but mostly they'll have Monday through Thursday as formal, and then Friday will be less formal. It'll be more casual. It kind of depends on your boss and what he prefers. But you should wear what's appropriate for your job, always. You need to remember what's appropriate for that job and do that. Yeah, I think health problems can influence fashion. If you have back problems, then don't wear clogs or high heels. They may be popular for youth and they wear them a lot, but later on they might have problems. They might have back pain, or it depends on the individual, of course. But be careful what you wear now may affect your health later on. Okay, thank you for your attention today. And hopefully you learned something about fashion, about the fashion world, and don't forget to do your homework.
Good evening. My name is Laura Eastley, and I'm grateful to all of you for attending this event tonight. I hope it will prove beneficial to each of you. If you were to ponder all
voice inflection and facial expressions incorrectly, this world was filled with chaos and frustration. From the time we were little, we observed how others use their words, laugh, argue, lie, and most importantly, how they use their voice and facial expressions. We are smart enough to recognize when people use their facial features to lie about something, or use their voice to let someone else know that they are upset. Consider, however, if everyone were to manipulate their emotions and expressions like an actor does 24/7, no one would ever know whether they believe someone or not. When others do not use the features correctly, and the rest of us are left with frustration. Remember that one experience in your life when a friend introduced you to someone new? They kind of said something that was sarcastic and somewhat rude, and you didn't know quite how to react to it. You didn't know if they were being serious or kidding. It was frustrating to you because you couldn't determine what that person's personality was like, and therefore you did not know how to behave or react to them. The same goes for all areas of emotional expression. For instance, someone asks a friend for them to do something he or she does not want to do. But because they are trying to impress someone or look good, or because they feel obligated to do it, doesn't mean that it has to be done. Not only is that person who doesn't want to do something is doing something they don't want to do, they are not enjoying the situation, and it's also informing the other person that he is willing to do it, which is in effect a lie. And later on can cause an argument. So immediately informing someone when you are not interested in participating in that activity will solve problems down the road, and you won't be deceiving them into thinking you are someone who really enjoys doing this activity when in reality you don't. I myself have had experience in teaching and trying to do things if a person is sarcastic or doesn't want to do something before it's done with it. It doesn't always happen with someone I have just met. Sometimes it happens with people I've known my entire life. The reasons for manipulating their expressions are not always the same as I have outlined above, however. One example being when my father was mad at me, he was giving me a lecture for not mowing the lawn when he thought I ought to have it mowed. I knew he was upset. I could tell by his voice inflection, the speed at which he was talking, and his facial features. When he was done yelling at me, however, he smiled. It was perplexing to me because I knew he was mad, but his facial features, his smile, told me that he wasn't really too serious about the matter. Instead of softening the blow, so to speak, he made me angrier than when I was when he was known now. Trying to soften the blow either indicates that you aren't serious, or you just undid all that you were trying to achieve, which was showing your emotional outburst. Therefore, it makes much more sense to show that you are upset or in your emotion, and stick to that emotion. This way, individuals will not become confused on what people are really trying to express, and the results will be less chaotic.
Hello class, I am your teacher today. My name is Marla Marks. Well, I've been deaf ever since I was 2. My family's hearing and I'm the only one that's deaf. No one in my family signs, so I had to learn sign myself. I also had some other deaf people teach me sign. I had a speech therapy class and I socialize within the deaf world often, so I feel comfortable socializing with both deaf and hearing people. Now today I would like to teach this class about fashion, about the fashion industry and the reasons behind fashion. Perhaps the reason would be because a person just really loved a style of clothing, or maybe it's related to a different reason. Maybe they could afford certain kinds of clothing. and some styles and fashions were too expensive to afford. Now, the fashion world started a long time ago, probably the 1700s. It really started the center of fashion, which was Greece. And the reason why is because of the drama and the costumes that were required for the drama in Greece. Now, because of that, we have a lot of influences from Shakespeare and from many different people at that time that were involved with the theater. From that, we've gained fashion. And after the Greek era, we see that Queen Elizabeth also had a lot of influence. She was high maintenance and required many different clothing in her wardrobe and had a lot of different styles of fashion. And that influenced people because people looked up to her. She was the queen, and people followed her style of fashion. Now, after that, when people started to arrive in America, that also started fashion changing and spreading, and fashions that were different than England. Now, maybe really expensive fashions from England wouldn't be able to be afforded by many people. So in this case, people would tend to start their own industries, setting up businesses, and sewing clothes themselves. That also started to spread and has influenced the fashion industry. Now, we'll also discuss what is popular today. What fashions do we see a lot today? And a lot of our influence comes from Paris. The fashions in Paris are different. They have catwalks and designers many different kinds of designers. And we buy our clothing from them. So these designers would make up many different styles, what they see for the future, what kind of styles they think the people will prefer, and they discuss a lot of different fashions. And because of Paris and Italy, these areas started early with fashion and decided the different styles that they would like. They also had fashion shows to show off their different clothes, the clothes that they were hoping would become popular, and hopefully influence those here in America. Now, people here in America buying the clothes, those people are called buyers, who go to different stores and buy the clothing that they prefer. Now, most of the clothing from Europe arrives in big cities, such as New York, Florida, California. And the people in these areas would buy clothing depending on the different areas, such as the climates that are involved in those areas really played a big part in what the people would buy for that area. So they would buy appropriate clothing, and also movie stars. People look up to movie stars and think, wow, I like their clothing and their style, and follow them. Many high schoolers follow MTV, magazines, many different styles from these things, and look up to other people thinking, I want my clothing to look like theirs and mimic their styles. So the media has really influenced fashion a lot. Now, clothing and fashion can be decided on where you live, also on those idols that you look up to that you would like to be like. And really, fashion is not a slow-moving industry. It is very quick. Trends move at a very fast pace. Now, do you have any questions for me? Yes, that's a good question. Projects that we will be doing. Something that I'd like you to take home is I want you to research a designer. Find a fashion designer that you like or you think that you would like to know more about. And tell me a background on them. Why do they do that kind of fashion? What has influenced them and their styles? So pick the designer, do the research, and then bring that to class, and we'll have a presentation on the different designers and their reasons behind their fashion. Yes, definitely. Trends that have happened from a long time ago, people today sometimes will go back to those trends. Many people will think, oh, we don't have any new ideas, so they'll look back at what's been done, maybe in the 1700s, 1800s, and think, well, we should try to implement that kind of fashion again and bring that back. There have been many different styles of clothing, so yeah, many people try to mainstream that and bring it back into our fashions today. And those who are really good with fashion can come up with new fashion from those old trends. What do I foresee for the next trend? Well, so far we see a lot of casual clothing now. We don't see fancy dresses with big hair anymore. Today, many people can't afford that kind of clothing. Many people will like it. Oh, I really like big dresses and fancy clothing, but they can't afford that kind. So they'll either have a knockoff of a certain trend or anything. I kind of prefer see casual stay in a big trend depending on climate, such as flip-flops, and depending on areas also. Here in America we have very different weather styles all over. It's different in the north and the south and the east and the west. There are many different styles related to those areas. Is there a difference between deaf and hearing fashion? Well, actually, I think deaf and hearing fashion tends to be the same. They tend to go to the same kind of stores and buy the same styles. So yeah, I think deaf and hearing fashion is the same. Business clothing for work. Well, if you've noticed at different jobs, they tend to have a day for casual clothes, such as Friday. So for these days, it'd be okay to wear jeans. Maybe Monday through Thursday, it's ties and nice pants, but on Friday, you can have casual clothes. It depends on if you have a more formal job or if you're able to be more casual. And whatever your job requires, what your boss wants, that's the kind of clothing that you should wear. So just think to always match your job appropriately with what you're wearing. Fashion being influenced by health problems. Yes, there are people who have back problems, and maybe for these people they wouldn't be able to wear platform shoes or high-heeled shoes. Also, many young people who wear certain clothing find out that later on it causes them health problems. So really, this is depending on an individual and their preference and the styles that they enjoy and whether or not this will influence them later and give them health problems. So yes, health problems does influence fashion. Okay, well that's it for today. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope that you've all learned something about fashion. Now don't forget your homework.
Thank you for attending this lecture tonight. I will be addressing the topic of social cues. I would like to start off by reading you a story. Long ago, there was a wise man who used to go to the ocean to read his writing. He had a habit of walking on the beach with his writing and his word. One day, as he was walking along the shore, he looked down at the beach and he saw a human figure moving like a dancer. He smiled to himself at the thought of someone who would dance in a day. So he walked faster to catch up. As he got closer, he noticed the figure was that of a young man, and that what he was doing was not dancing at all. The young man was reaching down the shore, picking up small objects and throwing them into the ocean. He came closer still and called out, "Good morning, may I ask what it is you're doing?" The young man paused, looked up, and replied, "Throwing starfish into the ocean." "I must ask then, why are you throwing starfish into the ocean?" asked the somewhat startled wise man. To this the young man replied, "The sun is up and the tide is going out. If I don't throw them in, they'll die." Upon hearing this, the wise man commented, "But young man, do you not realize there are miles and miles of beach here, and the starfish are along every mile. You can't possibly make a difference." At this the young man bent down, picked up yet another starfish, and threw it into the ocean. As it met the water, he said, "It made a difference to that one." I hope that as I continue my lecture tonight, the discussion will be progressive and we can leave here knowing what we can do and what our responsibilities are related to the topic of social cues. What is a social cue? It has been referred to as tact or common sense. In a dictionary, you will find many definitions for these, one of which is an acute sensitivity to what is proper and appropriate in dealing with others, including the ability to speak or act without offending. Why is this so important? Communication is crucial in our everyday lives. According to A. Barber, author of Louder Than Words, the impact of a message can be broken down as follows. 7% is verbal,